Chosen one, heaven just tore open the blueprint of your life that's been sealed for years, and the reconstruction order was released with your name on it, and it begins now. Hear me now, beloved. In the blink of an eye, all was made new, not by degrees, but in an instant. Your losses moved from permanent to temporary, from irreversible to restored, from gone forever to rebuilt completely. Right now, while you're reading these words, heaven is repositioning every piece you thought was lost forever. What the enemy stole, what time eroded, what betrayal shattered, all of it is being gathered. And God is not just returning it. He's rebuilding it stronger, bigger, and better than before. While you were sleeping last night, angelic architects received their orders. The foundation has been poured, the materials have been delivered, and what you're about to hear will explain why everything had to fall apart before it could be rebuilt correctly. Stay to the very end, because we will pray together and seal this word over your life. Chosen one, this is not an accident. You didn't randomly stumble across this message. Heaven orchestrated this divine appointment because there's a reconstruction happening in the spirit realm that you need to understand. God is rebuilding everything you lost. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your peace, your purpose, your joy, all of it. And the reason you need to hear this today is because the enemy wants you to believe the lie that what's gone is gone forever. But that's a lie straight from the pit of hell. Here's what God is declaring over your life right now. I am rebuilding what they destroyed. I am restoring what they stole. I am reconstructing what collapsed. And when I'm finished, you won't even recognize the old blueprint because the new one is designed for glory. If something in your spirit is stirring right now, if you sense heaven speaking directly to you, type rebuild in the comments. Let that be your agreement. Let that be your activation. And join the community of chosen ones who are discovering what it means to walk in divine reconstruction together. Because every day He's revealing more, and you don't want to miss what's next. This is your moment. Here's what you're going to understand before this message ends. You'll know exactly why the loss was necessary, why certain things had to crumble, and what you must do in the next 72 hours to align with the rebuilding that's already in motion. This isn't theory. This is activation. Let's be clear about something. The enemy didn't attack you randomly. He attacked you strategically. He studied your life, identified what mattered most, and targeted it for destruction. Your family, your finances, your health, your faith, your confidence. And he whispered a lie into your ear that you've been believing for too long. It's over. You'll never recover from this. But 1 Peter 5:8 warns us, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Notice what it says. He prowls. He studies. He waits for the opportune moment. And when he found yours, he struck hard. He wanted to demolish you, to leave you in ruins, to convince you that rebuilding was impossible. But here's what he didn't know. God uses the enemy's attacks as the demolition phase of divine reconstruction. Watch how this connects. When a building is old, structurally unsound, and no longer fit for purpose, you don't repair it. You demolish it. You tear it down to the foundation. You remove everything that's compromised, and then you rebuild from the ground up with a better design, stronger materials, and a clearer purpose. That's what's been happening in your life. The loss you experienced wasn't the end. It was the clearing of the site. The pain you endured wasn't meaningless. It was the excavation. The devastation you survived wasn't abandonment. It was divine demolition. Because God is not patching up the old version of your life. He's building something entirely new. And 2 Corinthians 10:4 declares, "The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds." The enemy came to demolish you, but God turned it around and used that same demolition to destroy the strongholds that were limiting you, the fear that controlled you, the shame that silenced you, the unforgiveness that poisoned you. All of it demolished. This is not about emotion. This is about assignment and alignment. Architected remaining revelation sections with activation framework. Good start. I need to continue with the revelation download sections, 4 to 6 sections, each with, let me continue building out the revelation sections focused on the rebuilding theme. God rebuilds what others destroyed. Here's the first truth heaven wants you to understand. God specializes in rebuilding what others destroyed, not just fixing it, rebuilding it. There's a difference. Fixing means you're still working with the broken pieces. Rebuilding means you're starting with a new foundation and a better blueprint. Listen to what God declares in Joel 2:25. "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten, the great locust and the young locust, the other locusts and the locust swarm, my great army that I sent among you." Notice what God says. The locusts, the agents of destruction, they weren't random. God allowed them to clear the field. But now comes the promise: repayment, restoration, rebuilding. And here's what most believers miss. God doesn't just give you back what you lost. He multiplies it. He upgrades it. He restores with interest. Because the God you serve is not a God of barely enough. He is a God of overflow. Think about Job. The enemy destroyed everything: his wealth, his health, his children, his reputation. Everything was demolished. But Job 42:10 reveals the ending. After Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. Not the same amount, not slightly more. Double. That's your story. What the enemy took, God is giving back, doubled. Here's the visual metaphor. Imagine a master builder looking at a collapsed structure. Everyone else sees rubble, but the master builder sees potential. He sees what it will become. And he doesn't just rebuild what fell. He builds something stronger, something that can withstand storms the old structure couldn't survive. That's what God is doing in your life right now. Write down one thing the enemy destroyed in your life. Then declare over it, God is rebuilding this stronger than before. What was taken is being restored with increase. The foundation must be right. Here's the second truth. Before God rebuilds what you lost, He rebuilds the foundation. Because if the foundation was faulty, the new structure will collapse just like the old one did. That's why the delay felt so long. That's why the process felt so painful. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was fixing the foundation. Matthew 7:24-25 teaches us, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock." The foundation determines the stability. Here's what heaven just revealed to me about your situation. The old foundation, the one your previous life was built on, it was cracked, it was compromised, it was built on things that couldn't sustain what God wanted to place in your life. It was built on people-pleasing, on self-reliance, on temporary validation, on worldly wisdom. And when the storms came, it couldn't hold. But God has been laying a new foundation, one built on His word, on His promises, on His character, on His faithfulness, and this foundation cannot be shaken, cannot be moved, cannot be destroyed. Psalm 127:1 confirms this. "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain." You've been laboring in vain trying to rebuild on the old foundation. But now God is saying, "Stop. Let me build this. Let me lay the foundation. Let me design the structure. And when I'm finished, it will stand for generations." Here's the visual. Picture a construction site after demolition. Before any walls go up, before any structure rises, there's a pause. It looks like nothing is happening. But underground, deep below the surface, the foundation is being poured. Reinforced steel, deep pilings, concrete that takes weeks to cure. It's invisible work, but it's the most important work. That's been your season. Invisible foundation work. Ask God this question in prayer. What part of my foundation are you still repairing? Then listen. Write down what He reveals and surrender it completely. God rebuilds with better materials. Here's the third truth that will shift your perspective forever. God doesn't rebuild with the same materials that failed before. He upgrades everything. Better relationships, better opportunities, better health, better mindsets, better connections, better resources. In Haggai 2:9, God declares something that sounds almost impossible. The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house. Not equal, not similar, greater. That's a divine promise. What's coming is better than what was. Let me show you what this looks like practically. The relationships you lost, they were the wrong people in the right season. God allowed them to leave so he could bring the right people in the new season. The job you lost, it was too small for where God is taking you. The health crisis you survived, it taught you to value what you took for granted. The financial setback, it broke your trust in money and built your trust in God. Everything that fell apart was made of materials that couldn't sustain the weight of your destiny. But what God is rebuilding is made of materials that can carry the glory he's about to release. Zechariah 4:10 asks a powerful question. Who dares despise the day of small things? The rebuilding starts small. The first signs are subtle. But don't despise the small beginnings, because small beginnings with God become mighty endings. Here's the visual. Imagine rebuilding after a fire. The old structure was made of wood, beautiful but flammable. The new structure is made of steel and stone, less ornamental, but fireproof. The enemy can attack it all he wants. It won't burn, it won't fall, it won't crumble. That's what God is doing. He's building you fireproof. List 3 materials in your life that needed to be replaced. Relationships, mindsets, habits. Then thank God for removing them and preparing you for the upgrade. Rebuilding requires your participation. Here's the 4th truth, and this is where most believers miss their breakthrough. God is rebuilding everything you lost, but he requires your participation. You can't just sit back and wait for it to magically appear. You have to show up. You have to obey. You have to move when he says move. Nehemiah understood this. When the walls of Jerusalem were destroyed, he didn't just pray and hope they'd rebuild themselves. Nehemiah 2:17-18 records his words. You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me, and what the king had said to me. They replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. Notice the sequence. God's gracious hand was on him, but Nehemiah still had to rally the people, still had to pick up tools, still had to work. Divine provision met human participation. That's your assignment right now. God is rebuilding, but he's asking you to participate, to consecrate yourself, to obey the instructions he's been giving you, to stop waiting and start working, to pray and move simultaneously. James 2:17 makes this clear. Faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. You can't just declare, God is rebuilding my life, and then do nothing. You have to act like you believe it, prepare like you believe it, move like you believe it. Here's the visual. Think about a construction crew. The architect designs the building, the owner funds the project, but the workers show up every day with their tools and build. That's you. You're part of the construction crew of your own rebuilding. God is the architect. He's provided the resources, but you have to show up with your tools, prayer, obedience, faith, action, and build. Identify one action step God has been telling you to take. Don't overthink it. Just do it within the next 24 hours. Obedience activates the rebuild. Rebuilding reveals your true identity. Here's the fifth truth. The rebuilding process is not just about restoring what you lost. It's about revealing who you've always been beneath the rubble. You've been buried under expectations, trauma, disappointment, and fear. But God is excavating the real you, the authentic you, the you He created before the world tried to reshape you. Jeremiah 1:5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." You were designed with intention, encoded with purpose, and everything that's been stripped away was only removing what was never meant to be there in the first place. Here's what most people don't understand about loss. Sometimes you don't lose things. You're freed from things. The job that laid you off, it was holding you hostage. The relationship that ended, it was draining your destiny. The season that felt like death, it was actually resurrection in disguise. Romans 8:28 promises, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." All things, even the painful things, even the devastating things, even the things that felt like the end. God was working for your good, and as He rebuilds your life, you're going to discover gifts you didn't know you had, strength you didn't know you possessed, authority you didn't know you carried, because the true you was always there. It was just buried. Here's the visual. Picture an archaeologist carefully brushing away dirt from an ancient artifact. Layer by layer, the true form emerges. It was always there. It just needed to be uncovered. That's you. God is brushing away the dirt of trauma, rejection, and false identity. And what's emerging is glorious. Complete this sentence in your journal. The real me that God is uncovering is. Write for 5 minutes without editing. Let the truth flow. The rebuilt version will attract different people. Here's the sixth truth, and you need to prepare for this. When God rebuilds your life, the new structure attracts different people. Not everyone who was there before will be there after, and that's not a loss, that's by design. Proverbs 13:20 teaches, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." The rebuilt version of your life requires relationships that match the new frequency. People who can handle the new you. People who celebrate the reconstruction instead of mourning the demolition. Here's what's about to happen. As God rebuilds, some people from your past will try to return. They'll see the new structure going up and want to be part of it. But watch closely. Not everyone who knocks on the door should be let in. Some people were only meant for the old season. And if you let them into the new season, they'll bring old energy into a new structure. 1 Corinthians 15:33 warns, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." Protect the rebuild. Guard the new structure. Be selective about who gets access, because the wrong people in the right season can delay everything God is doing. But here's the flip side. God is sending new people. People who align with where you're going, not where you've been. People who carry vision, not nostalgia. People who build with you, not drain from you. And when they arrive, you'll know, because they'll feel like home in a way the old connections never did. Here's the visual. Imagine a newly constructed building with state-of-the-art security. Not everyone gets a key. Not everyone gets a code. Access is restricted to those who belong there. That's your new life. Not everyone from the old structure gets access to the new one. And that's wisdom, not cruelty. Write down 3 names of people you know God is sending into your new season. Pray for them by name. Then write down 3 names of people from the old season who cannot come into the new one. Release them with love. Now it's time to move from revelation to activation. These are not suggestions. These are divine instructions. If you follow them with faith and precision, you will see the rebuilding accelerate in ways that shock you. Number 1, consecrate your life today. Pray over every area God is rebuilding. Your heart, your mind, your home, your finances, your relationships. Anoint your doorposts. Declare, this structure belongs to God. Number 2, identify the one thing God has been telling you to release, but you've been holding on to. It might be a grudge, a habit, a person, a place. Let it go before midnight tonight. Write it down, burn the paper, and declare, I release what doesn't belong in the rebuild. Number 3, speak this declaration out loud every morning this week. God is rebuilding everything I lost. I participate with faith. I move in obedience. I trust His process. Number 4, study these scriptures on restoration. Joel 2, 25-27, Job 42, 10-17, Isaiah 61, 1-7, Psalm 126, 1-6. Let God's word anchor your faith in what He's doing. Number 5, obey the last instruction God gave you. Stop waiting for a new word. Execute the old one. Your obedience unlocks the next phase of the rebuild. Number 6, fast 1 meal this week and use that time to pray specifically. God, show me what you're building. Reveal the blueprint. Give me eyes to see and faith to believe. Number 7, cleanse your atmosphere. Remove anything in your home, on your devices, or in your schedule that doesn't align with what God is building. Music, media, relationships, habits. Audit everything. Number 8, journal daily for 7 days. Write 1 sentence each day. Today I saw evidence of God rebuilding. Even small signs count. Document the process. Number 9, find 1 person to bless this week. Give, serve, encourage. Rebuilding makes you a blessing. Practice it now before the fullness arrives. Number 10, forgive completely. Everyone who hurt you. Everyone who abandoned you. Everyone who celebrated your collapse. Release them. cancel the debt. Because unforgiveness will block the rebuild. Matthew 6:14-15 is clear. Forgive or stay stuck. Now speak these words with authority. Let your voice shake the atmosphere. Let your faith activate what heaven has already released. I declare that God is rebuilding everything I lost, and no weapon formed against this reconstruction will prosper. Isaiah 54:17.